How are you doing? This is Martin from Gardens for Life. In this video I wanted to show you what an abundance of berries we have here in June and July. Every summer we have a ton of different berries, and this year is actually the first year in the last couple of years that we've managed to outgrow the birds, meaning that there's actually more berries in our gardens than the birds can manage to eat. So that means that there is loads left over for us, and I'll show you some of those now. Berries are actually so nutritious that they're considered a medicinal food even, or superfood. Even the ones you can grow in our cold temperate climates here in Ireland and UK and Europe. And they are full of vitamins and all kinds of different minerals and trace minerals, and actually antioxidants as well, most importantly. But if you can manage to eat berries every day in the summer, you'll be probably a lot healthier and your body will have what it needs. But you can also preserve them really easily in the form of either jam or syrup, or cordial actually is a good one too. And you can keep those in the fridge for about 3 months, as far as I know. With jams, of course, there's ways of preserving them for even longer. So the first one of the berries that we'd like to tell you about is the raspberries. Raspberries are awesome. There's two different types of raspberries. The ones that grow the wood and then have berries in the next early summer or in June. And there is the primocanes, which have berries or fruit already on the first year wood in autumn, and again on the same wood in early summer the year after. Now, which one you prefer is up to yourself. There's different varieties you can grow. We just have one variety mostly at the moment that we've been growing for the last 11 years now. We started with 5 little plants and now we have hundreds and hundreds, and you can see here they do create quite the abundance of food in the form of berries. You can also use the leaves as tea actually, so medicinal. You can see here, I mean, these are properly ripe now. So good. You can also freeze them, or you could make a jam from them, or you could make wine if you had enough of them. It would take a long time to actually gather the berries, gather enough of them to actually make it worthwhile. But one thing you can do as well is you can actually put them into vodka, for example, or gin, and you can make a liqueur from them with a little bit of sugar. But for the kids, it's great to walk around out here and actually just pick the berries and eat them. But we have such an abundance of plants, as you can see here now. And this area here has kind of been taken over by the raspberries. But when you have wood chips on the ground, as you can see here, it's quite easy to pull up the plants and actually separate them. But I won't do it now, I'll do it in the winter when the leaves have come off the plants. It's the best time of the year to do it. But I want to show you what an abundance of berries we've got now. Here's some raspberries that we planted into a hugelkultur bed. And as you can see, they're doing really, really well. We can hopefully transplant some of those and pot them up as well, so we can move them on to other places. Here you can see there's a lot of berries down here. Some of them will go moldy. There's quite a few moldy ones here because the foliage is too dense. So that's something you got to keep an eye on. And you're better off to try to harvest the berries when they're ready straight away. But if it's raining, you're going to have a problem because raspberries don't like wet conditions at all. So you're better off to actually either have plenty of air between the canes, or just make sure you harvest them straight away. But if it rains a lot, like it does here in Ireland, you're going to have some of them going moldy. But once you stay on top of them and you can actually keep harvesting them every day, bit by bit, you'll be grand. You won't lose many. And any of the moldy ones, I just drop them to the ground and bugs can eat them. So raspberries are actually a cane plant, so that means that they actually propagate underground by roots and pop up with canes, and then those old canes, then after they've fruited twice, you can cut them out and you end up with something like this. in the middle of summer. You have the first, last year's wood is actually fruiting now, as you can see here. The leaves look a lot older on these ones, and you can tell the wood is a bit older too. It's kind of browner. And the new wood is these ones here. These are actually, oh sorry, that's actually a marshmallow stalk. In the middle of the raspberries here is a raspberry stalk, and you can tell that the leaves are so much greener. That's because they're actually new growth that has only come up now. And the old growth is usually a bit lower down, especially because the berries kind of weigh them down. But the best thing about that is the birds can't really see them very well, and that is our advantage. Last year we didn't get to eat any of the berries almost that the raspberry canes produced in early summer. That's the first run of the raspberries, because the birds took them all. We don't mind, they're all young blackbirds, and they're all nesting here. After all, our place is called Birdland for a good reason, because you know, if I was a bird, this is the place to be, because you have tons of berries here and plenty of trees to nest in. Yeah, so this entire plant here, you can't really tell how big it is. This is about 3 or 4 square meters in the size now, and about 2 meters in height. And that started off as one large strawberry plant in a 10-litre bucket, and that we planted about 3 years ago. And now we have a ton of fruit coming off it every year without adding anything to it, literally. Number 2 of our most favorite berries to grow is the strawberry, which is, of course, if you've seen the recent video on the tasting and the review of a few different varieties that we grew a lot of them in these kind of crates in tables made of pallet wood. So as you can see here, it's really neat, and you can see there's still some berries here, where we're going to be planting these out soon now, and they'll grow new plants through the runners, which are these. You can see the roots already coming on here. Here's a berry that's almost ripe. We all know what strawberries taste like. Of course, the homegrown strawberries are so much better than the shop-bought ones, most likely because they're straight off the vine, and as we all know, food seems to degrade very quickly once you pick it. Even vegetables as well. After only 10 minutes they've lost something like more than half of their nutrients and flavors. You can actually grow them in pots or in trays like these, crates, or you can grow them on the ground. But I would highly recommend either mulching them with wood chips or with straw. But with straw you have the danger that you're giving habitat to the slugs. So you're better off using wood chips like we have. Even in pots and crates we mulch them, and that helps to keep the water in the soil and stops evaporation. Here's another type of gooseberry. This is a red variety. As you can see, you do get quite a few fruits. Definitely not as big as the other variety, but you still have to check, even if they're gone red, you still have to check if they've gone soft before you pick them. Pick 2 by accident now. The small one is not even ready. This one here is ready. It's soft. So let me try that one in comparison to the green one. Way sweeter, but also different flavor, but not as much eaten in it. This gooseberry bush is 2 years old now, and we're probably going to take some of this green wood here, softwood, and actually make new bushes from them, because we don't have enough of them. Hello, Sheldon. You alright? He's guarding the berries. So here you can see we must have had some caterpillars in that were eating our leaves, but we don't mind. Still bearing plenty of fruit. So gooseberries is an awesome plant. We don't have enough of them yet, so we're going to get grown more. Number 3 of berries is actually the gooseberry. There's lots of different varieties. Some are green, which are actually not as easy to detect by the birds, so you're more likely to get a harvest. And the red ones are a little bit more vulnerable to being picked by the birds just when they're ready. They can strip a whole bush of the berries in about a day. These ones here are actually a green variety. It's a Japanese variety. I forget the name of it now. I'll take a look on the internet and put the name in as a text. But you can see here what an abundance of berries. And they're very big berries. Let me see here. Now you check if the berries are soft with gooseberries. And of course if they're coloured ones, you'd want to check if they're red, and then check if they're soft as well. Let's try one. A little bit acidic, slightly sour, but also there's a certain sweetness in it. Pretty good considering they're a big berry, and there's a lot of eating in it. You can see here quite an abundant harvest in it. I mean, this bush was only planted here 2 years ago, barely 2 years ago, and you can see it has taken over nearly a square metre and a half here. And I've been cutting out wood here from the top of it, green wood, to make new plants as well. You can just stick them into potting compost and keep them moist, strip most of the leaves off, and that'll actually do to grow a new plant out of them. I have some other videos on that too. If you need any help with that, let us know. Leave a comment below if you have questions. Now the next one is actually currants. So you have 3 different colours of currants, white, black and red. My favourite to eat out in the garden, just as it is off the bush, is actually the red one, which is probably the most palatable. And the white ones are really nice too, but more subtle in flavour. All of them are extremely useful in jam making, wine making. You can make liqueur from them too. And you can just go out there and eat them, and the kids love them as well. Our little boy always eats black currants and all of the different berries as well out in the garden. And I'll show you here. This is one of the white currants. They haven't ripened yet, but you can see how they're actually growing off a stem in a cluster, whereas the black currants are different. I'll show them to you in a minute. These aren't ready yet, they're green, but when they get ready they'll be white and kind of transparent or see-through. These 2 bushes have been planted here about a year ago, year and a bit, and you can see it's very low maintenance. In fact, you can take cuttings from them. Like this one here, you could take that as a cutting and grow a new plant out of it. Now this blackcurrant plant is actually only 2 years old, and it started off from a small little plant in a 2-litre pot, and it has been bearing fruits ever since it was planted here. And this year it really has outdone itself. I think there must be 2 kilos of fruits on here. We've already been eating some of them, and so have the birds. The berries are actually quite ornamental. Even if you weren't going to eat them, just to feed the birds, it's even a nice plant. But these are actually quite sweet. They're not sour like a lot of the black currants that you'd expect. That one is not ready, but these black ones here, they are. Once they've gone black, they're ready to go. Unlike the gooseberries, you never know. You have to feel if they're soft. Let's give these a try. Yep, pretty good. As a child, I actually didn't really like the flavour of blackcurrant, but probably only because they weren't planted in enough sunlight. Here, this bush actually has nearly full sunlight, and it's doing really well. So I would highly recommend growing blackcurrants. You can use them for a number of different things, very medicinal too. And you can see there's some bindweed coming up through the middle of it. This bush is determined though, so we won't worry about it too much. So another good one to grow is actually a Jostaberry. That's a cross between a gooseberry and a blackcurrant, and typically speaking it has bigger berries than a normal blackcurrant, but you can see here it's certainly a different flavour. You can see here this is one of the plants. That one has been cut back actually last winter just to make new cuttings, but you can see here the berries are quite similar to the blackcurrant, but actually our blackcurrants are doing so well that they are actually outperforming the Jostaberry, but I'm sure they'll be okay after a while. This one is not 100% ripe. Let me try it. Very different flavour from the blackcurrant. We have a few of these bushes now. I propagated a number of them as well, just to get them going. We have them planted in other parts of the garden now, so that we can get some berries in the future, but also for cuttings as well to start new plants. Because Jostaberries are actually fairly common, but still hard to get. It seems like they're always sold out in the garden centres, and we'd like to also make those available to you guys at some point. So there's a number of different crosses between different types of berries, but another one we have in our gardens is actually Tayberry, and it's pretty good now. It's a really nice flavour. It's a blackberry crossed with a raspberry, and I'll just show you one of the plants here. Oh, we have a frog here. Hello, frog. Welcome to the garden. Here is the berries. As you can see, they're a bit longer than a raspberry, but they're a bit different, alright. This one is ripe now. I'm just going to try this one. It's really juicy and totally different flavour from either the raspberry or the blackberry. Let me try it. Oh, completely different. Can't really describe it very well, but it's kind of a cross between the two. So Tayberry is another good one to grow. It's actually not a cane plant. It is it tip layers just like the blackberry does. And as you can see here, it's doing quite well in this corner of our garden, which kind of needs to be tidied up a little bit. But it is actually throwing up some of these kind of vines that will probably tip layer down eventually. Another berry plant that we're growing for the last couple of years is actually Salmonberry, and the reason why it's called Salmonberry is because it's from North America and used to be eaten by the Native Americans during the salmon runs. So it has a lovely pink flower. It's a raspberry actually, kind of prickly, a little bit thorny, not thorny but a little spiky, and it's supposed to have a really good flavour and a lovely pink flower. We've seen the flowers. We've had very few fruits yet, so let us know if you've eaten one. They're probably very rare here in Europe, and well, we're growing them and they seem to be easy enough to propagate too. Here's one of the plants, and there's no fruits on it this year, no flowers. There was a few flowers earlier in the year, maybe about a month and a half ago in May. As you can see here, it's a little bit prickly, it's not too bad. And here is one of the plants. It's kind of a clumping cane plant. It's coming all from the center. It's similar to a blackberry, as you can see here. It's kind of growing up and it's probably going to tip layer eventually. But should be a good one. We'll see how it goes. It's also a pretty nice ornamental plant as well, with its pink flowers. So finally, we'd like to grow some Goji Berries as well. We have been growing them for 2 years now. We haven't had any flowers on ours yet because the bushes are only small. We're growing a number of different varieties though. We're growing the desert wolfberry, or the original phoenix tear that was actually found in the desert in Arizona, I believe it. I forget. Somewhere in the Midwest in America. It's originally there from the 18th century when they were building the Great Railway between the East Coast in America and the West Coast. And the Chinese immigrants actually were bringing the berries from China and eating them. And then nature took its course, and those berries are actually still growing there. You might think, well, they're grown in a desert, but sure, what good is that here in Ireland or in the UK? Well, apparently they do seem to do very well here. So we've heard. We also have different varieties. There's another one that's a Chinese variety, and we also have another couple of varieties from Europe as well. And here is one of the plants. We have some of them indoors, some outdoors, but we have more space in the new greenhouse, so we might plant them. You can see here it goes quite tall and it does fall over, so it kind of could do with a bit of a trellis actually, ideally, somewhere where it can climb a little bit, even though it's not a climber. You can see here there's quite some thorns here, but they're not vicious spikes. They're not vicious though, they're okay. They're not too bad to deal with. But hopefully we're going to get some berries on them. If anybody here is growing goji berries successfully in Ireland or even in the UK or Europe, please let us know. Are you growing them indoors or outdoors? And what variety are you growing? We'd love to know. We're trying to find out by planting a number of different varieties at this point now. So wish us luck. Ooh, here's another blackcurrant bush. I mean, well and truly it's just in abundance here at this time of the year in June and July. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and follow us or subscribe to our channel if you like. Thanks a million. Bye bye.